Hello, everyone. I'm John Munitz. Welcome to our live stream. I am a president at the People's Basics. I was the former host of the Hill of Roses podcast. We've been going through a lot of changes, and, one of the reasons why I really wanted to come back and start the live streams again is to make sure that we have a dialogue going between us, to make sure that any questions that you have along the way are being captured, and so that we can get back into the rhythm of regularly producing content. I want to remind everyone that we've already come out with some of our new content at the People's Basics. We came out with it last week with our first episode on healthcare. A little bit more about the People's Basics. It's a program where myself, as well as my new co-host, Jackie Sawicki, and I dive into, different basics of society each week, whether that be healthcare, democracy, values like freedom, justice, and security, housing, ending war, all these things that we think are basic fundamental pillars of a humane society. We're going to be doing a deep dive, exploring what the different issues are ourselves, and then bringing on a new guest each week to be able to talk on the issue with us. So in our first one, we came out with an episode with Jen Perelman talking about healthcare. In our second one, this upcoming Tuesday, we are going to be doing an episode with Adam Christensen. We're going to be covering democracy. And then we'll be having an episode with Richard Ojeda on freedom, justice, and security. And then we'll be talking to Marianne Williamson on childcare, and on with great guests to come. I'm really excited about it. And I want to tell you why, fundamentally, we made the shift from the Hill of Roses as a brand to moving the whole organization to the People's Basics. The first and foremost reason is that we wanted it to be something that when you hear our name, you know exactly what we stand for right away. The Hill of Roses gave a lot of interpretations for different people. If you knew it from a political context, maybe you could assume some of our politics, but the initial name did not tell people we are a group that are here standing for the basics for all people, whether that be basic income, basic services, democracy. And so we wanted something that immediately told people this is what we stand for. We stand for the people's basics. The second thing that we wanted to do is for those people who did have a political sense of the terminology, who understood, roses in a political sense, we wanted to help broaden the brand and really have the policies that we're advocating for be accessible to the people we have not convinced yet, the people who we need to persuade in order to get our agenda done. Roses right now, in an American context, has a large association with the Democratic Socialists of America, and we still have many allies in that front. But the thing is, the Democratic Socialists of America, they're already on board our platform. There are less the people that we need to go and persuade right now to join on things like a basic income and join on things like basic services and joining on things like getting corruption out of our politics. We need to get other people, independents, Democrats, even some moderate conservatives, to come on board with these common sense policies to give basics to all people. And so we wanted to move away from the branding that said, hey, when you think of our rose, you're going to be thinking of Bernie Sanders and the Democratic Socialists of the world. We wanted to open it up for all. And so with those two factors, we came to the People's Basics. And I am so thrilled to be able to work with our team going through and being able to build a variety of media content for you all. So I'm going to be doing these live streams to help get us all ready for the transition, and I'll be taking any of your questions. So along the way, if you have anything you want to ask about this, feel free to drop them. But we also are going to be having other forms of content too. We're going to be creating presentation videos so that we can have shareable content for you all when you are looking to help persuade someone on basic income or on a basic service or on a democracy reform measure. We want to create content that's easy for you to be able to use to convince your family and friends that this is the right path. As I mentioned, we have the podcast, which is coming out on a bi-weekly basis every other Tuesday. We will be having a new comic series that'll be launching in March, which will be aproposly named The Hill of Roses. So we wanted to keep that brand alive, and we'll be doing that through our new comic series. And then furthermore, we are still producing articles. I am going to be coming out with my first article, frankly, this week. This Thursday, I have my first article coming out on our website. We're still at thehillofroses.com while we build out our new website that's launching in March. And you're going to be seeing my new article, which is on healthcare and the different forms of universal healthcare. There's a lot of myths that the only form of universal healthcare is single payer. And there's a lot of problems that come with the existing democratic option that's the public option. And so we wanted to try and find this common ground between the two, where we believe that a single payer plus system has the potential best path towards a transition towards everyone having healthcare and everyone having it at a price that they can afford. So these are really what we're focusing on: comics, articles, videos, podcasts, and this live stream. We want to make sure that we're communicating in a variety of methods so that we can make sure that everyone eventually gets the basics of society. And so, along with some of the releases of the website, as well as the comic in March, we're also going to be rolling out a new membership plan. We believe that the best way to be able to grow this network was to have an ownership team that was going to be here for the long haul. And so we want to make sure that we are growing this network so eventually we can all do this as our full-time jobs. Know that this is going to take a while to build up. And we know that people like you who are watching today are the people who are going to help get us there. I want to remind you all to go check out the different places where you can get engaged. We have our Twitter page at People's Basics. We have our Facebook page at The People's Basics. We have our website for now, thehillofroses.com, as well as our YouTube page, which is still at thehillofroses.com. So, we want to make sure that you have all these forms of content. And for our podcast, you can also find it at, Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify and SoundCloud. We have all these links included for you below. With that being said, I want to turn to one final thought before I get to your questions. I've told you enough about the People's Basics. It's time for me to give you what I want to use this live stream for, which is giving you a daily recap of what have been some of the thoughts that have been ruminating on my mind and some of the news that's been happening, around the country. And the first one that I want to turn to, since we've used some of the time, I want to keep this short because this will be a short program so I can always get to your questions. I want to turn to, how do we do grassroots advocacy? There's a lot of different senses of how do you do this. And I mean it from a cultural sense, and I mean it from a tactical sense. Right now in the left, there is a large call of whether or not you are purely anti-establishment and you will go after the people in your Democratic Party as hard, if not harder, than you do to conservative adversaries. There's also the side that says you have to be more of a reformist and you have to just simply fall in line behind the Democratic Party no matter what, and that any challenge is, frankly, going to hurt your side in the long run. I think neither of those have to be the case. I think we can work within the existing structure because the incentives right now make the prospects of a third party nearly unviable unless you are working purely on a localized level. And right now, the call for democracy reform, which is the main thing that is holding us back, is being championed through the Democratic Party. And so there has been a split between the people who say we must go with a third party path, whether that be something like the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, the People's Party, or do we go the Justice Democrats route through the Democratic Party? It's of my belief that we do have to go through the Democratic Party. And it's of my belief that we do have to be diplomatic at times. We have to know when it's right to actually throw our punch. We know that we are able to have more weight in having our criticisms heard when we're not trying to attack them at all moments. We are working with them on the issues that we agree with, and we are vocalizing substantive disagreement on the issues that we don't disagree with. We are working in good faith. They are not our pure adversaries. We want them to join us. It's not us joining them. It's working within the party and dragging them to join us because we have the popular policy. It's not necessarily saying we are perfect because that is not realistic. That is not human. Of course, over time, we are always going to have flaws and we want them called out. We appreciate every single person here who challenges us to improve. We know we're never going to be perfect, and we want to welcome that because that's how we grow. But it's also, sometimes we're not always privy to the conversations of what is being secured, where the criticism is being levied, because there is a difference between internal conversations and levying your arguments inside where you can work out substantive disagreements without having a whole schism amplified by the media when you go publicly. And so I know there are a lot of people who want to simply go gangbusters and attack the establishment. There are rightful reasons to be annoyed, angry, and feel like they are purposely targeting us as enemies. But here's the thing, they are on their last legs. There is a gerontocracy within the Democratic Party and an unclear leadership structure. Our ranks are growing within the progressive movement, and we have had more significant progress on amplifying the causes of universal basic services like healthcare and universal basic income within a very short period of time of a 4-year period, where we're going to be able to realize those things within our lifetimes if we work within the structure. We know we are not going to be able to compete from third parties when we have a first past the post voting system. And when we know ourselves, the people who are advocating for the poor, those who are the working class ourselves trying to organize and have less resources, we're not going to compete properly when we're going up against these corrupt giant behemoths with tons of cash. We don't have the campaign finance reform system to publicly finance competitors from this grassroots system. We don't have the resources to spread ourselves thin, trying to primary our own Democratic ranks when they're progressives. We should do that when they are the people who aren't with us on policy. That's how we grow our ranks. We primary the people who say, hey, we don't agree with you on policy. We're not going to support that. The people who are taking this corporate PAC money, let's keep running against them because that's democracy. But guess what? Wasting our money and our time berating the squad for tactical disagreements when we don't have full information and they were able to come away with securing things, that's not a politics that I support here. I think we need to be more diplomatic, and they have been able to build up an influence with the liberal base because they know when to pull their punches, and they have more of their ear on these key issues because when they issue them, they know it's coming in good faith and they have to actually speak up. So that is kind of the method that I would like to go with myself. It is a politics that I subscribe of, trying to actually get the democracy reform done so that we can actually have this multi-party system. Because I am not going to deny with you, the conservative ranks are a very different faction that often mimics the moderate Republicans more often than the progressives on issues. That is not something that I think is sustainable. I think we need to either be going to a system that has either no parties, where we can have more people who are independents, or a system where we have many parties. And so it's going to come from democracy reform. And it is of my belief that the only way forward to getting that democracy reform is probably through the Democratic Party and a hostile, not a fully hostile takeover, but we're not just going to merge them into the machine unless they fully join us. It's on our terms. We're not going to just cave to their terms. We are setting the terms and we are building the strength because we have the right policies. That being said, I'm now going to go to some of the questions that we got from the audience. We got some from Justin, and then we got some from Hungry Country Ball. Yeah, Hungry Country Ball is reflecting that it's been a while since I've come on the channel. Yeah, it has been. We were taking time to really set a direction, solidify what the core team is and the vision of what we wanted to do. We had been in such a go, go, go mindset in 2020 that when we wanted to step back now that the election had finished, we wanted to say, what is the long-term picture now that we're working together? Where do we see ourselves going? And this is something that we ended up doing during that period of time, is deciding we wanted to initiate the transition to the People's Basics. Thank you for the question, Grayson. Okay, let's see. Let's go with one of Justin's to wrap up. Yeah, that's basically the plan. We want to hijack the Democratic Party, and we want to make this accessible. Like, this is not someone hating the voters of those bases. I want to reason with them. I want to accept that they might have ideas that I don't know yet. There is so much that can be exchanged from simply having a good faith conversation on the issues and agreeing where we agree and disagreeing where we disagree, and recognizing truths that we have choices and we work within an imperfect system to try and improve it to the system that we want. We can't just work within a system that isn't existing today. You have to work within the existing system today to make it into a new system. So I think that is really going to be the best way forward. Let me go with last one because this is a good question from Grayson. I think when it comes to debates, it depends. I think that they can be, but it largely depends on how we are trying to go at the debate. When it starts getting into like a personal element, I think it's largely an unconducive environment. And I also think it doesn't work particularly well when you just have it be like a home court advantage type situation where you see, like, for example, like the Voshes of the world, they have the ability to just mute whoever comes on to debate. And I understand why he does that, but it leads to him being able to not always argue in good faith, to shut people down and to basically have an unconducive conversation. I want to have a sharing of perspective where we can come to a common understanding and, leave where we can agree to disagree. I don't want to come into a place where the objective is to try and make one person look stupid or the other person look stupid. I don't think that's what we should be having as our political conversation, is the objective of trying to harm the other. I think it should be trying to grow each other's common understanding. But that being said, I want to thank everyone who tuned in today for this live stream. I'm going to be back every day, Monday to Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. So you will be seeing a lot more of me and the People's Basics. That being said, I'm going to leave you with this transition video to remind you again of the change that we made from the Hill of Roses to the People's Basics. That being said, my friends, stay basic out there. A rose by any other name still advocates just as sweet. Rosebuds, the Hill of Roses is no more. We are now the People's Basics. In the coming months, we'll be rolling out a new website, our comic series, and rewards to help support our new startup media and technology venture. In the meantime, check out our new podcast, The People's Basics, with hosts Jackie Sawicki and I, Jonathan Munitz, where we'll be breaking down a different societal basic each week with our friends, colleagues, and experts. Join us, and let's get back to the universal basics. Please help us by appeasing the algorithm gods with a like, share, subscribe, and hitting that bell today. Stay basic.